A morning show massacred Nicolas Cage battles George Stephanopoulos in a clash for respect. The sun barely peeked over New York City's skyline, but the Good Morning America studio crackled with raw energy. Golden sunlight flooded through massive windows, bathing the sleek set in a fiery glow. The polished desk gleamed under blazing studio lights, with the city's iconic skyline shimmering. In the background, a perfect stage for what should have been a routine segment. The crew moved like a well-oiled machine, every step precise, every second. Calculated producers darted between monitors, plotting each segment with the cunning of battlefield generals. At the anchor desk, George Stephanopoulos, sharp in a tailored navy suit, flipped through note cards, his eyes glinting with sharpness that hinted at trouble. To his left, Robin Roberts radiated warm, her steady presence, grounding the chaos. Michael Strahan flashed a megawatt grin, ready to charm the masses with his effortless charisma. 30 seconds, a stage manager barked voice slicing through buzz. The studio pulsed with anticipation. The audience's energy electric, like a storm about to break. Then Nicolas Cage swaggered in leather jacket, creaking wild hair untamed, and that enigmatic smile, equal parts charm and chaos, that had sparked 1,000 viral memes. The crowd exploded, clapping, cheering. As if a rock star had just hit the stage, Cage waved, cool as ever, settling into the guest chair with a nod that screamed confidence. "George, thanks for having me, Cage," said his grin wide but easy voice dripping with that quirky warmth. "Always a blast to be here." "Thank you, Nicolas," Stephanopoulos replied, his smile tight, almost predatory like a wolf eyeing its prey. "Great to have you. Let's jump right in." Cage's eyes flickered, catching the edge, and Stephanopoulos leaned back, relaxed, ready to roll. The red tally light blinked, cameras hummed to life, and the show went live. "Good morning and welcome back to Good Morning America." Stephanopoulos began, voice smooth but laced with sharpness that clashed with his usual polish. With us today is legendary actor and producer Nicolas Cage, here to talk about his new thriller. But I think our viewers want more than just promo fluff, don't they? Nicolas Cage's eyebrows ticked up, his smile holding, but cautious like a man stepping onto a frozen lake. "Well, George, I'm always game to talk about my work," he said, tone light, but guarded. "Whatever grabs your audience, let's do it." Stephanopoulos leaned forward, eyes narrowing, a hunter locking onto his target. "Let's talk about your spending habits, Nicolas," he said, voice dripping with insinuation. "You've made headlines for some wild choices over the years. Pyramid tomb stolen, dinosaur skull shrunken, heads, pretty out there stuff. Don't your fans deserve to know why someone of your caliber makes such reckless moves?" The studio fell deathly silent, the air thick with tension. Only the faint hum of cameras broke the quiet as every eye turned to Cage, his smile faded, eyes sharpening as he processed. He ambushed the audience, once buzzing with excitement, now sat frozen, sensing the shift from friendly chat to something raw and ugly. "I'm sorry, George," Cage said, voice steady but laced with confusion. "I thought we were here to discuss my new film. My personal finances aren't exactly tied to project, are they?" Stephanopoulos didn't budge, his expression hard as granite. "Oh, I think they're very tied, Nicolas," he pressed tone, unrelenting. "You've taken on dozens of films lately, many of them frankly panned by critics and ignored by audiences. Isn't it true you're grabbing any role you can pay off debts from those wild purchases?" The accusation hung like a thundercloud dark, and menacing producers behind the camera shifted nervously their carefully scripted segment, spiraling into chaos. This was supposed to be a breezy promo, not a brutal interrogation. Cage's jaw tightened, a spark of the intensity that fueled his wildest roles flashing in his eyes. "George, with all due respect," Cage said, voice firm but calm, "I think you're working off some serious misconceptions about my career and my personal situation. Every role I take is a deliberate artistic choice." Stephanopoulos cut in, voice thick with skepticism, lips curling into a smirk. "Is that what you call starring in direct-to-video? Licks most people haven't in her to come on, Nicolas. Let's be real with our viewers." "I am being real," Cage shot back, voice rising just a fraction, a flicker of fire igniting. "What I don't get is why you're hitting me with personal attacks instead of asking about the craft, the story, the incredible cast and crew I work with on this film." Stephanopoulos shuffled his note cards, clearly savoring the discomfort he was causing because our audience is tired of the usual Hollywood promo nonsense, he said, tone sharp and patronizing. "They want real talk, real answers. The real question everyone's in is whether Nicolas Cage has become a parody of himself." The words hit like a freight train. Cage's hands gripped the chair arms, breathing, deliberate, eyes blazing with the legendary fire that defined his career. "A parody of myself," he repeated, voice low but intense, each word heavy and measured. "George, I've been in this game for over 4 decades. I've won an Academy Award. I've worked with the greatest directors alive. I've never once compromised my integrity as an artist for public opinion or media. Approval, but your recent career path raises eyebrows. Stephanopoulos. Press diving deeper into dangerous waters, voice cutting like a blade, the memes, the online jokes, the constant talk about your financial troubles. Don't you owe your fans an explanation? Cage said, abruptly, chair scraping against the polished floor, camera scrambling. To follow what I owe my fans, he said, voice steady, but burning with conviction, is authentic performances and honest storytelling, which I've given my entire career. What I don't owe is a public breakdown of my private life or justification. For the choices I make as an adult, and an artist's attention was electric, alive, wire sparking dangerously. Stephanopoulos, realizing had pushed too far, but too stubborn to retreat, gestured to the chair with a patronizing smile that only worsened things. Nicolas, please sit down. We're live on national TV. I'm aware we're live, George. Cage replied, voice carrying the unmistakable edge of his most intense screen roles. What I'm not aware of is when Good Morning America decided to ditch journalistic ethics and professional courtesy for tabloid ambush tactics. Stephanopoulos' face flushed, but he doubled down, ego refusing to let him back off. Nicolas, you're being overly dramatic, he said, tone dripping with condescension. These are legitimate questions entertainment journalists ask all the time. Entertainment journalist, Cage's voice cracked with disbelief, eyes blazing. George, you're supposed to be a serious news anchor, not a gossip columnist chasing scandal. There's a difference between journalism and harassment, and you're deep in harassment territory. Stephanopoulos leaned back, trying to project calm, but clearly rattled him. Just try to have an honest conversation about your career choices. He said, voice tight, isn't honesty something you value? Of course I value honesty. Cage shot back, still standing presence, commanding the room, which is why I'm telling you this interview is wildly inappropriate. You invited me here under false pretenses, ignored every attempt to discuss my work, and treated me like a criminal instead of a guest. Stephanopoulos' strained composure fraying at the edges. I think you're overreacting, Nicolas, he said, tone patronizing. These are questions many people have about your recent choices. Many people. Cage's eyebrows shot up, voice sharp with incredulity. Or just you, George, because it feels like you decided before I even walked in that you were going to try to humiliate me on national TV. Was this a rating stunt? Did you think attacking your guest would make for compelling television? The accusation struck like lightning. Stephanopoulos shifted, clearly rattled, face reddening. That's completely unfair and unprofessional of you to suggest, he said, voice tight with anger. Unfair, unprofessional. Cage let out a sharp, humorless laugh, eyes burning with intensity. George, you spent the last few minutes questioning my integrity, my financial responsibility, and suggesting a joke in my own industry. You want to talk about what's unfair and unprofessional? Producers were in full panic mode, stage manager waving frantically to cut to commercial, but Stephanopoulos was too deep in the fight to stop. Look, Nicolas, he said, trying to regain control, voice strained him, asking what many Americans think when they see your name on another low-budget ice hit, a new peak passion boiling over since. When as a film's budget measure, its artistic merit, some of the greatest films in history were made with minimal resources and maximum creativity. Are you seriously saying only big Hollywood blockbusters have value? That is shallow, uninformed take for someone in your position. George. Stephanopoulos, sensing he was losing ground, escalated further, voice sharp and biting. I'm saying an Academy Award winner shouldn't starring in films going straight to streaming. That most people haven't heard of. The personal attack was a final straw. Cage's intensity, the kind that fueled his most iconic roles, turned fully on Stephanopoulos. George, let me school you on something you clearly don't understand about this industry, he said, voice blazing with conviction. Every film, no matter its budget or distribution, is the result of months, sometimes years of creative collaboration from dozens of talented people. When you dismiss those films as beneath me, you're not just insulting me, you're insulting every writer, director, cinematographer, and actor who poured their heart into those projects. That's not what I'm doing, Stephanopoulos protested, weakly, voice faltering. That's exactly what you're doing. Cage continued, passion building, words cutting like a blade. You're pushing a toxic Hollywood hierarchy that says some films matter and others don't. You're saying artistic integrity only exists in certain budgets or models. That's not journalism, George. That's snobby, dressed-up license from someone who doesn't understand craft. Stephanopoulos tried to interrupt, but Cage was unstoppable, voice rising with every word. Do you know what I see in those so-called smaller films you mock? I see chances to work with hungry young filmmakers who have stories to tell and the courage to tell them without studios breathing down their necks. I see opportunities to explore characters and themes that don't fit Hollywood's like cutter creative freedom that most actors would kill for, but some of Those films haven't end well-received, interjected Voice Week, but desperate to regain control, well-received age-demanded voice thundering to the studio critics obsessed with box office numbers over storytelling audiences trained to only value films with massive marketing budgets or morning show hosts who think they understand the industry. Because they do 7 minutes Thai chats, the insult landed like a sledgehammer. Stephanopoulos reddened, "E cracking like glass, I think you're being unnecessarily hostile, Nicolas," he said, voice strained, barely holding together.